OK. Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue à l'Espace 4, une station de l'Université Concordia. Merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui pour l'événement Bâtiment, le catalyseur essentiel de l'électrification de la société, ou en anglais, Buildings, the Integral Catalyst in Electrifying Society. Aujourd'hui, l'événement est diffusé en direct de l'Espace 4 et situé en territoire autochtone non cédé à Tchitchaga, Montréal. Ici, à l'Espace 4, nous travaillons avec la communauté universitaire pour favoriser la mobilisation de savoir. Tous les jours, nous créons ensemble des activités pour faire découvrir la recherche et les projets en cours ici à l'université, de même que les questions que nous intéressent. La rencontre aujourd'hui est une conversation en direct. Vous pouvez donc soumettre vos questions et vos commentaires par clavardage. Et pour les personnes qui sont dans la salle, si vous souhaitez participer, il suffit de lever la main et nous vous fournirons le micro. Sur ce, j'ai maintenant le plaisir de passer la parole au spécialiste de la propriété intellectuelle à voltage, Olivier Rynne. Olivier, bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup, Douglas. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Isabelle and Martin. Before introducing yourselves, I want to thank everyone for being here for Voltage's first podcast episode. We'll have many more coming. So Voltage is a research program in Canada to fund research to electrify society and to make the lives of people living in Canada better. So this is Voltage. Isabelle, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Everybody online. Hello, bye-bye. I'm just a very old female engineer. I graduated 45 years ago from Polytechnique in material science, and I'm happy to tell you, for the women in the room and online, I was the first woman ever at that time to graduate at Polytechnique in metallurgy, and even after 100 years. So I'm proud of what I've done, and after that I specialized myself in the management of change and innovation, maybe because I was a woman, in the male's world, and seeing how comes, everybody sees innovation just on the technology or very, kind of a scientific side, and there's the human side, the commercialization side, the societal needs, and I developed some kind of a specialty doing a doctoral degree in management of innovation and following different industries, including construction, but also medical, aerospace, anything that has changed over the last 4 decades, and I'm happy to be there to just to exchange maybe about what's happening and how we could continue this kind of change movement towards a better life, better world with new materials, new way of constructing building.
Thank you. And Martin?
Hi, everybody. My name is Martin Roy. I'm an engineer. I graduated a couple of years after you, about 35 years ago from Polytechnique as a mechanical engineer. I've been working most of my life in sustainable building, although we didn't call it sustainable building 35 years ago. It was more, first I start with doing controls, computer controls for buildings. So it was very new at that time. Then I start working in consulting engineering, where I designed different building where energy efficiency was the main goal. Then we talked about a lot about what we called at that time the sick building syndrome. That was in the 80s, 80s, 90s, when we stopped entering air in buildings. So green building came at that point because we understood that it's not only energy, it's more of the people that we should be taken care in building. So I've been working in that field, and now we're talking about decarbonation. So it's, I would say it's the energy efficiency and the way the building act on the environment that's important in decarbonization. Although we should never forget the people, because the reason why we're building is for the people. So it's
Indeed, that's something you told me when we first spoke. It's buildings is much more than engineering. It's a social thing, actually. So it might be a bit puzzling for people like, okay, voltage, electrification, but the guests seem to be more specialized in materials and buildings. So let's take a look at a sort of network that's related to electrification that we've identified at Concord at Voltage. You might be able to see on your screen, it's very zoomed in. Electrification is much more than just batteries or electric vehicles. Here, where is it here? You have this whole supply chain of batteries on top. And here today, we're going to talk about buildings. You may be able to read through them, all the small blue boxes. You can see dots as well, red and yellow dots. The red ones are projects that are currently funded at Voltage, and the yellow dots are the patent landscape. These are all innovations that are supported in Voltage and the field of buildings. Esteemed guests, what is your opinion on innovation in building and in the whole landscape of buildings?
Like I said, being there for 4 decades, and I'm following innovation in many different fields, not only buildings, but in cars and planes and medical devices, everything. It goes slow, but it's normal. And I prefer it goes slow because that means that we are experimenting and testing and seeing, there's problems, not only technical, but, difficult to be used, difficult to train people, difficult to repair, whatever. So that's the problem. It's very difficult because, like I've been trained in material science, he's been trained in mechanical engineering, another one in computer science, and even only in engineering, you have engineers not necessarily talking to each other and developing only pieces and parts. And when you enter a building, this is a system, and not only the structure, but the interior and all the systems, to make it work, electrical and mechanical and ventilation and all of that, plus the human side. So it's very systemic, holistic, and I would say even organic, because it will evolve over time because of the weather or whatever. So the material will deteriorate and everything. So it's living kind of thing. So this is why it is normal that it evolved, because the environment is evolving. Internally it evolves and everything, so it degrades and the habits of the way we live change, the size of the family change. You know what I mean? Everything is changing, perpetual change. So this is why we evolve slowly, and it's some kind of we have to iterate, and sometimes we have to unlearn things we thought would be great are not great anymore.
Do you have an example of things we had to unlearn?
Because like we talked, the engineer were more on technical performance and cost, efficiency. It's beautiful, it works, but will it work very much longer? And will we be able to recycle, the thing when it deteriorates and we need to scrap it and change it, So now we learn that everything is happening to the planet, to the climate. We were only emphasizing some criteria, short-term performance and cost, and not the rest. So now we learn, but we have to reiterate and change completely the design, and you explained it very well, and we label this kind of new challenge differently. Now green building, sick building, decarbonation. We think it's different. Oh, it's a new era. No, but it's always the same thing, It's the same old principles apply, and we need to just take it from a much longer perspective.
Interesting. Martin, what do you think when Isabelle says it takes time and it's a good thing that it's taking so much time?
Well, I would say there's 2 major factors that will push innovation. I was talking about how we looked at building in the 70s and in the 80s when I started working. Was energy wasn't important. Then energy crisis came, so the energy was important. It was important for, it always been important for the engineer, for the people that know about it. But what change is politicians start talking about it. When politicians talk about it, they want to find solution. And when they want to find solutions, sometimes these solutions will overshoot the means or the direction where we want to go. So that is one of the very important factor of innovation. Now, let's say we're in the decarbonation, the politicians are all talking about decarbonation, and they may talk about it too much.
Yes.
But it will push innovation. We will put maybe too much money in it, but innovation will arrive for that. I think the best example is what happened during COVID. All the politicians says we have to we have to beat the COVID. So we've been able to produce vaccine very, very fast, but we took measure that maybe was that overshoot the real thing we should have done. And we saw that with the energy crisis when they decide, and it was in different regulation where you had to reduce the air that you put in the building. But then we had that problem, the sick building syndrome. So it's always in response. So there's like those two push, the politician, and then the overshoot that will come back and modify the innovation. That's how I see it. The problem with the construction, it is very, very conservative. And the reason you're doing a building, it's not the same for the promoter, the organism that will put the money in it, the architects, the engineer, and the people that will using the building. And most of the time, they're not talking to each other. So there's a building that is built, then the architect wants to do is interest in architecture, the engineer is interested in technical interest, and then when the people come in the building, they have to modify things because it wasn't for what they asked for. So it's hard to move the industry in one direction or another when they don't have the same objective or the same goal.
So they should really focus on the people living in the building first and have an iterative process, like what you like and how should we change what you don't like.
When we started talking about green building, the integrated design process came in. And this process is exactly what you're saying. We sit at the same table, the promoter, the people that will use the building, the engineer and the architect, and we're trying to do the best building. And we're still talking about that, but we're not in. It does happen maybe for 5% of the building that is being built, but not for all the building. And this is, I think, one problem with innovation.
Isabelle, do you want to add anything with your experience?
The term project I want to jump into because. Last Friday, I spent my whole day at the Chair Fayol Margil, run by professors that are architects in the architecture department at the University of Montreal, and they invite every year because this is some kind of consortium. Builders, investors, people from social work, and architects and engineers and people. Prefabricated houses, builders, and everything. And one person, which has 35 years of experience of managing projects at the government of Quebec, at the Société Québécoise des Infrastructures, he just retired, and he said, he resumed the conundrum as we construct the whole industry is working by project. So by definition, a project is always new, relatively unique, complex, multi-actor, multi-stages, you know what I mean. And there will be delays, and it's difficult to understand everything and manage. And he said, if we want to better construct, more rapidly, cheaply, but still high quality, and involving the people for, best low-income citizens and elderly people and all of that, we need to industrialize a little more construction, the practice, and work like an industry, and have more prefabricated, parts and everything. And if somebody has managed a project so well, they have the better, design, more effective, or more resilient, they're more durable and everything, why not transfer this knowledge from this project to some kind of a system, more organized and everything? But it's difficult, changing the whole structure of the industry from working project by project to working more like a supply chain or a value chain. Not necessarily being so, rigid, you could be very, very agile value chain with different players coming and everything. But people are not, because my training is in production management and value. My doctoral degree is in that. And I've been teaching, logistics and in manufacturing and everything. And I found it very clever to understand that, So is it possible to better do things and learn from each other and learn faster? I was saying we learn slowly if we continue to work only project by project.
Is that realistic in a world where there are many stakeholders, many different companies? If you have a vertical integration of your business or your supply chain, it's probably easier. But when you have like all these different actors, as you said, Martin, like the entrepreneur, promoter, architects, engineers.
But this is why you have the principle of customization, mass customization.
Gotcha, standardization.
Okay, so some companies are still doing like a Bombardier. The actual Bombardier, not the old one making the big plane, but the Challenger, for more private planes, Every plane is unique, is custom, it's a project, but still the value chain is industrialized, So you could have the best of the two. It's very complex to put in place, but I think you need, if you want to have a more holistic and systemic management of all of that, you need a structure, you need a process, you need ways of a governance system. And of course, I'm trained in management, so maybe I'm biased, but you need a little more of learning how in other related industry, because I think, designing a specific plane for a specific it resembles sometimes, because there's a lot of regulation, and it's very highly regulated. Aerospace is the same. So
I think it's what you're saying is what we should, and I think in the world we have example of that.
Yeah.
If you look at China, the way they're when they want to do an industry, put an industry somewhere, they will build the manufacturing, the building. They will build the where the people will sleep and live around them, and they'll put all the infrastructure for that industry to work. I think the reason why it works is because it's the government that is in charge of doing that project or that industry. We don't see that here because our government is not involved, and we don't want them to be involved. We want to be able to change our government every 4 years. We want to be able to have our say, and I this is the way I've been raised in that system. So maybe I don't want that system to change, but that's our big problem, to be able to incorporate faster the innovation in the building, and to do what you just said. How can we change the construction industry into a manufacturing industry? Then you need like a Bombardier. There's one CEO of Bombardier, but there's hundreds of CEO of construction company. So one will say, no, it's that system, I want to be a prefab, and the other one will say, no, it's this one. And at the end, during a long, at the end, after a long time, some of system becomes standardized. So you have prefabricated equipment,
Yes.
but still you need to connect them together.
Oh, of course.
And this could be this could help the industry. But the main thing is as you said, it's project by project, and it's stakeholder by stakeholder, and there's so many stakeholders that
Yes.
it will be hard to sit all them at the same table.
So what would be the importance in that case of success stories, demonstration projects, to maybe mitigate the perceived risks?
See, this in the year 2000, I was doing a lot of, or a little earlier than that, doing a lot of social housing. We were building the social housing with heat exchanger, area exchanger. We had ventilation in each room of our social housing, where in the condos that were built at the same time in Montreal, you didn't have any ventilation, you didn't have any heat exchanger. And it started to be installed in the industry, and now you don't see any building without it. The reason is because the code the people that do codes understood that in the codes you have to put those things because it's better for building, better for energy, better for construction. So this is what dictate how we do a building. It's our construction code. So this is a little like I would say that the link to be sure that the construction industry are doing something the same way. But the problem with that is our code is the worst building that you can build. It's not the best. Yes. And you cannot modify, well, if you want to modify the code, you'll have all that industry that will push so you don't do those modifications. So it's kind of, it is very complex. Innovation in building, if it's well done and well documented and promoted, will help, because that's why code change for heat exchanger in building, because it was well done, it makes sense, but it took a long time. And it's, I was involved in the Varenne Library. Varenne Library was built to be the first net zero energy building in Canada. It wasn't very, well, it was close to net zero, it depends on how you see it. Our big problem was hydro didn't buy back the electricity, so but if you do a calculation, you're close. But that was 15 years ago, and it's still the only building that was built in that the goal was to do a net zero building. Now you can see a lot of buildings that are more efficient, and that I think that's a good thing. But
we need the next
15
step.
Years ago.
Yeah. And Isabelle, do you have any experience with demonstration projects, co-creation?
Actually, I think I am involved in the future project, like the Carré Laval in Laval, which is very interesting. I've been working with them for 2 years now, but it's a project that started maybe 5-6 years ago. And nothing is being built, actually, even a detailed plan. It's going to be another maybe 2-3 years of preparation, of having all the planning with all the different experts, because we want it to be not only each building, but the whole neighborhood to be not only net zero, but net plus. Okay, which means that you could have eventually surplus of energy or water or whatever that you could exchange and maybe share with other groups and everything. And this is feasible, but it's been under experiment in 100, if not 200 different cities and neighborhoods, mainly in Europe and Asia. There's really not a lot of things in North America, United States and Canada, maybe because we have electricity cheaper or whatever, we don't know. Maybe also the density of population and the growth of population in Asia, but the density of population in Europe and the price of energy and everything. forces them to innovate a little more. But they are sometimes building new neighborhood, but also refurbishing old cities. And this is another project I'm currently recently involved in Montreal, how to refurbish old buildings, both the facade and the interior, to make it more energy efficient, but also better quality of life and a lot of different things. And how to do it with recycling the materials and putting greener materials and all of that. And it's and how to do it effectively with health and security of the workers. Around in the very high building and everything. So and without too much noise around and everything. So a lot of different technologies and methodologies and everything. So it's multidisciplinary kind of thing. So refurbishing and recycling old materials and old building is even more, to me, I find it very interesting because, like Montreal is a much older city than other cities in Canada. I was sitting on different boards for the Canadian government and going to Winnipeg and, different cities like this. And I was amazed to see, wow, the city is so new. Everything has been built like 10 or 15 years ago or maybe 30 years ago, but in Montreal, very old buildings and everything. So we are at the end of the life, and so we need to think about that too. And maybe it's less exciting, for architects and everything, but this is very important for our society,
Yeah.
So
otherwise, it's a huge amount of waste.
Of course.
To deal with, yeah.
Exactly. So, and this is why sometimes people go away from Montreal and everything, but we need to have denser, higher density in the cities and having, vivid life and everything. And we have students here and everything and all the arts and the artists and everything. So it's very interesting. So for some cities, it's very important, both on the quality of life, but also economic. The economic future of a city like Montreal is based on that. So it's important. So maybe the government, one of the problem with the government, especially maybe in Canada, we have the Canadian government, the province, and we have the municipalities, the cities, and they have all different rules and regulation. And they have more or less money, and then the different codes. Some are regulated by regulation by the city, other by the provincial, and other by the Canadian. So, so it's just the regulation, the certification, and everything, the approval of everything. It's a mess.
How often would you say? This question is to both of you. How often would you say that there are field disrupting regulations or frameworks happening from local governments, the province or the federal government? Is that like every 2 years, every 5 years, that it's a paradigm shift?
Disrupting, I don't think, codes, as I was saying, codes is the worst building that you can build. So most constructor will build better building than minimum code. We've seen in Quebec the coming of the energy code. That was 2 years ago. All constructors had a year and a half to understand the code and put it in place. So it went fairly easy. We had a kind of energy code before. It was the energy law in Quebec. But this code is like most of our code in Canada, object-based code. So it's the objective that you have to follow instead of the prescription in the code. Usually the code, it says these are solutions that you can do. Most of the people will understand the solution and put those solutions in their building instead of understanding the objective.
So it's a bit biased. It takes from the point of view that the person making the regulation or the corporation already knows what you should use instead of what could happen in the near future in terms of innovations, new materials.
Well, I think it's a misunderstanding of the code from most of the stakeholders in construction, because they think the code, the solution that's are in the code are the only solution. Although
Okay.
there's a big problem not a big, but there's a problem when you want to change those solutions because you have to address the authority having jurisdiction, and those people may not understand what you're asking for, what you want to change. And this is what happened with the wood construction, the wood structure construction in Canada. Yes, we can build a 14-story wood structure, but there's no example in the code. So the solution's not there. So it's a lot easier to take solution instead of come with other solution. In the energy, it was easier because energy efficiency is, as you just said, the building is a system. So what you have to understand is the system and propose solution for the system. So you have, and we have tools, the energy modeling tools that are existing, and so you do energy modeling, you propose different solution, and it's going to work. So I don't think the codes will reduce the way the innovation are promoted in building, because it's fairly easy to do a building that's a lot better than what the minimum is asking for. And the problem is you have to understand that, you have to have the discussion with the authority having jurisdiction, and our problems most of the time is that authority doesn't understand what we want to do, and that takes time, could cost money. I would compare that to the value of debt of something that you want to manufacture. So it's once you've done it once and it's been approved by the authority having jurisdiction, then it's a lot easier. So this is where I think a project like Voltage should help. And actually, when I was talking about the Rynne libraries, though the innovation that was in the building, first there weren't that many innovation. The innovation was we connect all better systems together. So most of the time a building is a system, and a better building is a system with better technology,
more
and all connected together. So I think that's what should be shown as innovation more than the equipment that has a 1% more efficiency than the other one.
OK. Si on vient maintenant à la réduction des gaz à effet de serre, quelles sont pour vous les 3 meilleures façons d'y arriver pour un bâtiment? Isabelle, si tu veux commencer.
Bien, disons que je vais parler aussi avec mon point de vue en ayant géré dans le passé des fonds d'investissement pour la Caisse de dépôt puis le Fonds de solidarité dans les technologies propres. Les gens qui... il y a quand même des gens qui vont mettre de l'argent là-dedans, que ce soit le gouvernement à travers un fonds, que ce soit des investisseurs privés, des promoteurs. Donc, il faut quand même qu'il y ait pas juste le bâton, là, il y a une obligation, il y a une contrainte, il y a un code et tout ça. Puis là, il va falloir que tu apprennes des nouvelles choses, que tu payes des consultants supplémentaires ou je sais pas trop, mais il faut que ça soit payant. OK. Donc, c'est pour ça que le gouvernement, en général, récemment, justement, le Fonds de solidarité, qui est un fonds aussi d'investissement immobilier, pas juste un fonds technologique, le vice-président, M. Cormier, a commandé une étude avec Hydro-Québec et des promoteurs immobiliers. Et ils ont fait des simulations d'un édifice qu'on construira aujourd'hui avec les meilleurs, en suivant le code, là, OK? Mais en investissant pas plus que le code demande au niveau d'efficacité énergétique ou utilisation de l'eau, peu importe, matériaux plus résistants à long terme et peu importe. Versus en essayant de mettre des innovations justement pour rendre ça plus résilient, plus efficace, sobriété énergétique et tout. Puis il y avait des ingénieurs mécaniques, électriques là-dedans, de construction et tout ça, des gens en matériaux. Et ils ont fait une simulation des coûts de départ. Ça coûtait 6% plus cher, l'édifice un peu meilleur là, que le code.
C'est inacceptable.
Oui, sauf que ils disent, si jamais moi je finance cet édifice-là et je le loue, soit pour des personnes dans des logements ou des bureaux et tout ça, et je veux le revendre parce qu'un investisseur veut avoir son argent, j'ai payé tant de millions puis je vais le revendre X millions de plus 10 ans plus tard. Bien, étant donné, et pour le gérer, les assurances coûtaient moins cher, maintenant ils commencent à avoir des taux hypothécaires plus bas Quand tu as un green building, un paquet de choses, ça coûtait moins cher à chauffer, moins cher à réparer, un paquet de choses. Puis à la fin, il faisait 30% de rendement sur son investissement.
Très acceptable.
Donc, c'est vraiment des investisseurs qui ont leur but. Ils commencent à avoir des regroupements d'investisseurs immobiliers à travers le monde qui sont moins visibles ici, mais plus en Europe, justement, et en Asie et autres, mais qui documentent des cas comme ça et des modélisations financières pour dire investissez là-dedans. Oui, c'est meilleur pour la planète et puis ça vous donne une meilleure réputation et tout ça, là. Mais puis vous vous sentez mieux le soir là, quand vous rencontrez vos enfants ou vos petits-enfants, mais en même temps, c'est payant. Parce que pour différentes raisons économiques et aussi, cet édifice-là va se revendre plus cher, il va y avoir plus d'attrait. Les locataires vont peut-être payer plus cher pour le loyer et autres. Mais tu sais, c'est toute cette notion-là. Fait que moi, je trouve ça intéressant de dire, sauf que ça prend il faut faire des évaluations basées sur des cas réels. Ça, c'est une simulation, mais basée sur des données probantes de qu'est-ce qui est arrivé ailleurs dans d'autres régions, des cas qui existent. Donc, je trouve ça intéressant de documenter ce volet-là.
Ça prend de commencer, en fait.
Pardon?
Ça prend de commencer. Si tu me dis que ça se base sur... C'est vraiment des
mais c'est clair que les bâtiments plus efficaces, plus durables, ont une plus grande valeur. À la question sur sur comment on peut... C'est quoi l'action qu'on doit prendre pour réduire les gaz à effet de serre produits par les bâtiments? Ça, c'est un peu problématique au Québec. Puis c'est une situation qui est pratiquement vraiment c'est une situation québécoise. On le retrouve dans certaines autres provinces, mais le fait que notre électricité est complètement décarbonée, moi, j'ai des bâtiments qu'on les analyse, on les voit là, quand on les fait avec justement les modèles énergétiques, mais on fait aussi une analyse de cycle de vie sur la quantité de carbone que ça a pris pour construire le bâtiment. Puis on est dans une situation où quand je vous disais tantôt, quand les politiciens focusent sur quelque chose, le danger qu'on est trop loin, ça, c'en est un. Si ce qu'on veut faire, c'est des bâtiments zéro carbone, on ne met plus d'isolation dans le bâtiment. Parce que l'isolation c'est un des matériaux qui contient le plus de carbone. Parce que le chauffage électrique a zéro carbone. Donc, on y est de plus chauffer notre bâtiment, d'avoir un bâtiment qui consomme beaucoup plus d'électricité, et on va avoir un bâtiment qui va produire moins de GES. Et c'est énorme. Si je prends, par exemple, le Collège Sainte-Anne qu'on vient de finir il y a 2 ans, qui est un bâtiment très efficace au niveau énergétique, qui a été certifié zéro carbone design et zéro carbone performance aussi. Ce bâtiment-là ne produira jamais autant de carbone dans toute sa vie que ça en a pris pour le construire. Et de beaucoup, là, le carbone d'opération sur toute sa vie représente 1/100 du carbone qui va être utilisé pour le construire. Ça fait qu'il faut faire très attention quand on se met des objectifs de décarbonation, surtout dans le bâtiment, de tenir compte du bâtiment globalement, mais de tenir compte aussi des autres impacts, un peu comme la problématique que je vous parlais de la qualité d'air dans les bâtiments au moment de la crise énergétique. On va arrêter de rentrer de l'air dans le bâtiment. C'est la plus grosse dépense énergétique, c'est de la ventilation du bâtiment. Mais là, on a rendu les gens très inconfortables. La même chose peut arriver avec le carbone, mais on va arriver avec des bâtiments qui sont peu efficaces au niveau énergétique.
Et justement, en parlant de personnes, comment est-ce que aussi le comportement des usagers peut aider à réduire ces émissions?
Moi, je pense que les usagers n'ont pas souvent fait partie de l'équation. On est des ingénieurs, puis on aime travailler avec des machines. Puis je ne dis pas on a décidé de prendre le curriculum d'ingénieur parce qu'on ne voulait pas être dans la société ou avoir à dealer avec des gens, mais on avait peut-être plus de facilité à dealer avec des machines qu'avec des gens. Fait que là, on utilise des équipements pour simuler les gens dans le bâtiment, plutôt que d'utiliser les gens comme, pour savoir comment ils se sentent dans le bâtiment. Tu sais, le meilleur exemple, c'est le thermostat ou l'humidistat qu'il y a dans une pièce. On en a besoin pour maintenir une certaine température parce qu'on a des systèmes qui fonctionnent. C'est plus simple que quelqu'un qui se lève et qui va mettre une bûche dans le foyer puis qui fait trop chaud, va ouvrir les fenêtres. Sauf que, est-ce qu'on est capable de revenir un peu à ça aussi? Est-ce qu'on est capable de revenir un peu pour... C'est prouvé que les gens, s'ils ont une interaction sur leur confort vont se sentir plus confortables à des zones de température différentes. Nous, les ingénieurs, on aime bien les normes, les études, les codes, puis ASHRAE, c'est un organisme qui fait de la recherche dans ce domaine-là, mais dans la norme 55, qui est la norme sur le confort, le bien-être des occupants, bien, il y a 2 chartes de température. La température où les gens ont accès au contrôle par des fenêtres ouvrantes, par différentes méthodes, et ceux qui n'ont pas accès. Et les températures sont beaucoup plus disons que la fourchette de température est beaucoup plus grande dans laquelle ils sont confortables. Fait que c'est évident qu'il faut voir comment on peut plus impliquer les occupants dans le bâtiment.
Isabelle?
Oui, bien, tout ça, c'est relié avec le volet politique. C'est quand même les politiciens, les politiciennes, il ne faut pas leur en vouloir, là, parce que ils sont aussi dans une machine, là, où ils doivent être réélus aux 4 ans et tout ça. Et ils écoutent la population indirectement. Et souvent, ils entendent 2 citoyens, puis ils pensent que tous les citoyens pensent comme ça. Donc, c'est pas évident. Ils veulent le bien des citoyens, mais souvent, c'est ça, les décisions qu'ils prennent, comme vient de dire Martin, ne sont pas toujours nécessairement les meilleures. Puis, hier, je lisais, il y a les audiences là, pour la loi 69 sur l'électricité et tout ça, là, avec... Puis, tu sais, là, c'est des ministères différents qui s'occupent de produire de l'électricité, là, à meilleur coût et tout ça, puis en essayant de moins affecter le climat et autres, pour toujours avoir de l'électricité à 0 carbone ou bas carbone. Mais l'efficacité énergétique ou la sobriété énergétique, c'est 2 choses différentes aussi, là. Tu sais, c'est très humain et social, là. Puis là, c'est d'autres ministères qui s'occupent de ça. Le ministère de l'Environnement. Tu sais, c'est déjà, tu sais, c'est là que tu dis, écoute, si même le gouvernement, juste lui, ils sont pas capables d'avoir un plan global qui intègre les choses, comment tu veux que tous les différents joueurs, beaucoup plus bas là, dans la hiérarchie décisionnelle et de financement et de décision, tu sais, c'est compliqué. Parce que justement, quand on parle de décarboner, puis on parle d'analyse de cycle de vie, c'est tout ça que tu dois optimiser. Puis il y a des éléments de climat, d'accès aux ressources et autres. Et, puis c'est pas parce que là, actuellement, on a droit à avoir de l'électricité depuis 100 ans, vraiment un prix, que ça va toujours être le cas. Donc, on voit toujours qu'il y a des limites. Puis quand tu parlais au tout début de la conversation, c'est sur l'urgence dans la COVID et tout ça, on a trop voulu pousser aussi le véhicule électrique. Puis là, il y a eu une augmentation, il y a eu des bonus donnés à ça, des milliards investis dans les usines de batteries ou d'automobiles électriques. Puis il y avait une croissance de marché qui était un peu normale au début, mais là, ça vraiment commence à ralentir. Dans certains pays dans le monde, non seulement la croissance n'est plus de 30% par année, mais rendu à 10, mais dans certains pays, la vente d'automobiles électriques, elle décroît, elle devient presque 0. Donc, c'est normal. Moi, je sais qu'il y a des cycles comme ça, puis il y a des hypes, là, OK? Mais souvent, c'est ça, les politiciens ou les différents joueurs sont dans le très court terme. Puis, on veut embarquer tout le monde. Même la population n'embarquera pas aussi vite comme ça. Donc, c'est pas tout le monde qui va embarquer dans l'efficacité et de comprendre ces choses-là. Puis, c'est pas une question d'âge, là, parce que moi, je suis rendue une personne âgée de 65 ans et plus, là, puis moi, ça m'horripile vraiment quand on dit, tu sais, les personnes âgées sont moins numériquement branchées, puis tout ça, c'est faux, actuellement. Donc, c'est assez spécial quand même de voir que les gens se font des fausses idées, et souvent sur qui va adopter en premier. C'est pas juste une question d'éducation ou d'âge ou de milieu social ou autre. Donc, il y a des gens plus sensibles à des phénomènes que d'autres. C'est très complexe à gérer. Fait que je dis pas que, justement, il n'y a pas de solution magique aujourd'hui. J'espère que les gens ne sont pas trop déçus de nous écouter là, dans la salle ou en ligne. Mais il faut beaucoup plus se poser les questions. Puis, comme tu as dit aussi, mettons, on peut prendre le chapeau. Moi, je suis une ingénieure, ou moi, j'ai été aussi professeur à l'université toute ma vie aussi, en même temps que j'ai travaillé comme investisseur pour gérer des fonds d'investissement. J'ai travaillé comme coach de jeunes entrepreneurs. Des fois, je travaille avec des multinationales. Là, je travaille avec une ville, avec le maire, avec la directeur. Chaque personne avec laquelle j'ai travaillé ont différentes perspectives, objectifs et différentes parties prenantes là, pour lesquelles ils travaillent, qui leur tiennent à cœur. Puis en même temps, moi, je suis une mère, je suis une grand-mère. Tu sais. Tout ça, ça compte. Puis moi, j'incite tout le temps mes étudiants ou les personnes que je coach qui sont souvent des entrepreneurs ou des futurs ingénieurs. Toute ta vie, tu ne seras pas juste un ingénieur. Tu vas être un frère, une sœur, tu vas être un père, tu vas être une mère, tu vas être un enfant, tu vas être peut-être un ministre, peut-être le maire de ta ville. Tu comprends? Fait que tu es une personne qui a beaucoup d'influence et que tu peux influencer les décisions et les groupes toute ta vie de différentes façons. Puis moi, je pense que c'est une responsabilité. C'est la société, c'est un ensemble d'individus, puis tout le monde doit doit jouer son petit rôle, puis de pas juste penser au quant à soi. Donc, you need to think more, on the social side, and you have a role and you have influence as a voter, as a citizen, as a potential mayor, a councillor in your municipality, whatever, as a blogger, on internet, as an engineer, as a developer, as an inventor. You have multiple. You could wear multiple hats over your life, and you have multiple ways of influencing. Maybe I'm too, kind of general,
So yeah, very optimistic.
No, but to me it's important because I have changed a lot of things in my life. I have influenced a lot of people that's made change because I've been teaching to a lot of, potential entrepreneurs and inventors and citizens and innovators and everything. Maybe to me, it's part of my life, and it's not only me, what I can do, it's how I can influence other people just by my behavior, my thinking, my attitudes, my beliefs, and my way of convincing or of learning from others and doing different things. And this is why people always say, oh no, you don't look your age, you're so dynamic and whatever. It's because I'm always learning something, meeting a new person. Like now I met Martin recently. He's an amazing person, he's a good person to know and to work with and collaborate and everything. The same for you, And so I'm so happy to be here today and meet with the people and everything. And to me, this is a communion of people. And this is the only way to progress because, we are human beings and I hope we are more intelligent than the artificial intelligence, and we could together figure out, how to do this.
Working together, yeah, it's definitely about collaboration. Voltage is a group effort. I think you were both involved to some extent. Martin, what do you want to add to the idea of we're all part of something and how to make life better, maybe more destined to around buildings?
We're talking about information just before the podcast, and I think everybody has the responsibility of being informed of what's happening and understanding. You don't have to understand everything, but the subject that is your interest, you have to understand it more than just the surface. You have to, and when I was young, we had 4 stations at the TV. There was radio and paper. So all the information were on those media. Now there's maybe, I don't know, maybe too many, but you have the responsibility of understand your interest, and you have to understand what is happening around those interests. So you be sure that your involvement in what you're interested in will be maximized. So it's more of I would say be informed, be critical about the information, double check your information before making decision. The question about the GES is no, this is the big one. You have to understand what is really in the back of the GHG reduction.
So I might be reaching there, but so information, getting to know things is especially important when we're talking about innovations, technical innovations, because they're new by definition, and people aren't so aware of them. So when do you think, this question is for both of you, you can decide who goes first, when do you think it's sometimes necessary to push innovation, and other times maybe to just let go and go for simpler solutions?
You need both. You need always advocates pushing for innovations. Sometime I've been myself, like 20 years ago when I was managing this 40 million fund for Caisse de Dépôt. We were asked to invest in anything in the world we thought would be good, any kind of industrial innovation, not medical and not pure IT. We decided to invest 22 years ago, to invest in what we call at that time clean tech. Okay? And the vice president of Caisse de Dépôt told me, "You're a crazy person. Nobody is never going to make money with green technologies," which was treating water, sludge, and energy efficiency, and new materials for lead, and all of that. And I said, "Oh, you have the right to believe that because this is old principle, but the future belongs to that, and we will push that." And we pushed a lot. And we invested a few millions, and a lot of companies that people thought for 5-6 years we were still crazy. But suddenly there was different crises and needs and everything. And suddenly, younger people came at Caisse de Dépôt to manage the same fund and told me, they arrived from different places in the world, and they told me, this investment, Isabelle, this is the most promising. And this is the one that the old guy told me, 5 years before. This was the craziest investment. I will never make money. So, it's the same investment, but sometimes, you see just later on, it's good to do. It's good investment. So you need a lot of projection, and you need some people that understand technology, society, and investments, and what's coming on. And you can make eventually prediction. You could have it wrong by about 5 years, but in 5 to 10 years from now, it will happen, and it's worth it. But you still need people that will do more incremental innovation, because there will be one disruptive innovation, let's say in material, whatever, and after that you will need hundreds, if not thousands, of incremental innovation to make it work and adjust the system. So you need both, So it's not one against the other. So, and people don't understand that, but the innovation is always in cycle, and you need some disruptive innovation, and that takes a long time, and then there will be a series of innovation in terms of processes, materials, and methodologies, and then change in codes and all of that, And so it goes, it's a 10, 20, 30 year cycle, when it's major innovation, so, and this is known. The theory of innovation exists. We know this. It's been like this since hundreds of years. It's just people sometimes don't realize that these cycles are normal. As I said just in the starting of our conversation, it takes time.
So where are we at right now in terms of innovation? Are we at the crest or on the bottom?
It depends on which technology
one,
we're talking about. So some are at the crest, some are at the bottom, and it's intertwined and everything.
So Martin, what do you think? And then I have a follow-up question on that.
Well, in terms of building, in the building, there's some technology that we need to tackle more this part right there. Heat pumps, because in cold climates, decarbonation of building, the main thing is, the energy of the building in cold climate is for heating. And we've been heating the building with combustible from the dawn of the humanity. So that's how we're always been able to warm ourselves. And how can we reduce the use or not use the combustible, burning something, because when you burn something, it heat's coming back. It's transferring energy. So heat pumps is transferring energy, taking the heat from the outside even when it's very cold, to put it inside. So there's been a lot of innovation in that domain, and there still are. We need a little more because we want to replace system that are it's more difficult to replace those systems. There's the electrification, where I think we're still seeing a lot of innovation in terms of electrical accumulation, batteries, in terms of renewable energy production. When I was talking about Varenne libraries, we could produce about 30% more energy with the same building just by replacing the solar panel that were installed 15 years ago, because this is what did happen in that technology. But I would say the most, and that's kind of crazy, because I'm repeating myself, or it's like the Groundhog Day, I don't know how you say that, but it's since the 80s and the 90s, we say operate your building, optimize the way you operate your building. We have a project with the City of Laval where we are decarbonizing all their buildings. So there's about 30 buildings that we've been working on 10 now, and it's always the same thing. The building was designed, and now it's operate not as it was designed for, and the reduction in greenhouse gas, almost half of the reduction will come just by optimize the operation of your building. The other 50% will come with those equipment, heat pumps or solar panels.
That's crazy, 50% just by operation.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. This is very low tech.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. The problem is we're engineer, and we're designing building to be operated by our engineer. So it's kind of it's hard not to see it that way, but we have to look at a building more like a car. But then we would need where you have driver's license, but we should have operating license for a building, so the people that will operate the building will understand what is done, and there's the link between the designer and the operator.
And it's in their advantage also, because it just means like less operational expenditures. If they are operated better, it's less expensive to maintain and
but operate. Energy in a building represent for the money flow in a building. It's very little. It's more of the people that's in there. Let's say you have an office, you have 30 people in your office. Your money flow during the year, it's like, I don't know, $3 million. And the energy for the building will represent $3,000 to $5,000. So it's not, the energy has never been the main cost of any industry.
But that's in Quebec, more specifically, or around the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Because it's the cost of the material, the cost of the people that are working there. So it's more of that. The hospital, how you define the energy cost. It's fair. If you look at the energy costs of one hospital, it's very high, $1 million, let's say, or $2 million. But in terms of cost of operating that hospital, it represents
just a fraction.
1, 2 to 5%. So it's again, and when you look at the greenhouse gas, it's even worse than that, because the cost of carbon is about 20% of the cost of our gas. When you buy the gas, it's not that much. So it's 5 times less than the energy cost. So it's I don't know. This is how it is. Now we have to, but a lot of people like me, like Voltage, all the people at Voltage, and like you, we're interested to reduce that. So we're going to work on that. But we have to understand what we're working on.
Gotcha. And so for that other 50%, I like tech. What's your like top 2, top 3 like favorite tech that you see having like a great impact?
Well, the first thing is to do a little like it's been done in Varennes Library, where the innovation wasn't the technology, but was the integration of the technology together. So as we start talking about building as a system, it's the system that we have to optimize, not the technology that's in the system. But we have to still work on the tech, like that heat pump. I want that heat pump that's going to do water at 55 degrees C, because that's the temperature I need in my building. Now it's produced 45 degrees C, that's too low. So I need that technology, but I need to integrate those technology together. So this is more of where the innovation should go, I think.
Yes, and the problem is that we're talking about the government is putting a lot of money up front in, the radical disruptive innovation and the new battery and whatever, because this is famous, glorious, whatever. It's exciting for people to hear about that, but there's not enough money put to help the company, the manager of building plans or whatever, to improve on the methodologies and everything, because this takes time of the operators, of the employees, or whatever, and this has a cost too. And so there's not a lot of grant for that. It's not, but to me, this is very important. And I agree with the integration of multiple technology. Actually, we've been developing so many things, and a lot of the technologies, because they are, they spun out of different, groups of people, like the mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, material engineer. They don't talk to each other, as I said. So the systemic, I just always use the analogy of the chef d'orchestre. The chef d'orchestre make magnificent thing with different type of, instruments and everything, and the harmonization of that. This is the magic. This is exactly this, and we need more chef d'orchestre, and to have money for them and for the people involved with them to put the things together, integrate, adapt, and make it coherent and everything. And this reminds me of a project recently. I am involved with companies that take old residues from old mines. And because now the price of different materials has increased, is rare and everything, there's scarcity in terms of the supply chain. So now they are taking old ways of metallurgy, hydrometallurgy, mining principles, and all of that exists. But they're just creating a new process. Sometimes some of the steps are reversed, because, they start from a completely different material and they had to discuss that, how to, they come at the end with silicium, magnesium, or nickel, or whatever, with different forms, and they need to integrate in. Some of them, of these materials, will go in buildings eventually, and because the carbon footprint is much lower, because, not only you didn't have to dig in there, but at the same time, you're just removing a residues, that has a high carbon footprint. So this is very interesting. And they have difficulty, and I'm trying to look with them if eventually they could even file for a patent for the principle of putting together different things that could be patented, but the principle of putting that is completely new and highly creative and highly performance, and you could get a patent out of that.
Yes, for sure.
So stop thinking about just reinventing this. Sometimes just putting together existing things might be the trick.
Acceptations.
Yeah, exactly. Think completely differently.
There was something I was thinking about at the beginning of this discussion. We went over maybe how slow innovation is hitting the building sector. It takes time from the promoters, but even trades. Martin, the other day you were telling me that you wanted to install a heating floor, and the person didn't really know how to do that. If we're looking at lean management and lean startups, how to reduce waste and make a prototype to get as value what the customers and the stakeholders want. So instead of having a fully fledged product, you just bring out something, bare bone and see how your customers react to it, and then increment and improve on that. That's the theory. How would that work in the field of buildings, where we're not talking about an app on your phone, we're talking about like something very big? Open question there.
And we have to look at the construction industry a different way than the manufacturing industry, because just what we talked about earlier, there's not a CEO of the industry in construction industry. It's all small project. The stakeholders are not that big, so they will not invest in something that will bring money later. You know, you don't want to invest in one building that will cost, I don't know, $50 million. So in the next 4 that you're going to build, you're going to save maybe 10 million on each. So it never worked like that. It's always one project. How can we build that project the cheapest as possible? The next one, we start again with a white sheet, and sometimes we're going to use some solution that we saw, but it's kind of hard to increment a profit on the way we do construction for a lot of reasons. And is it possible to find why? That would be a good research, I think. And this is a cross field of social and technical, and these cross field doesn't happen that much. You know, we engineer and people in construction like working with a machine, and social study like to work with people, and so it's kind of. But I think it should be studied. Maybe it is, and I haven't seen any. But it's kind of hard to do, as you said, increment the innovation you put in one building. So at the end, it will come. At the end, it's more of, I would say, the equipment. I just built a house, and the equipment, the heat exchanger that I put in my house has AI in it. So it will automatically balance itself. So I need that amount of air in each room, and it will just punch it in the keyboard, and it will automatically balance itself. So this is, for that machine, a great innovation. But having the heat exchanger in the building is a better innovation, and a lot of building doesn't have those heat exchangers. So you see, the technology itself could be very good, but the use in the building or in your system, building as a system, sometimes is more important.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's always a problem of scaling. Even if you're, like for the building, the people that were presenting last week, I was referring to from the prefabrication industry. There might be some modules, you know, of the building. It could be pre-built and eventually have, you know, demonstration of that, of different techniques and whatever. But still, you know, there was an engineer that came from the different norms about the joints, you know, and it's very complex about the humidity and, you know, the air and all of that, you know. And this is critical. So if even the way you fabricate the different modules is great, and, you know, you have the, you know, MVP and everything, but, you know, every system, every project is kind of different. There's some uniqueness. It's very difficult. And the same in I'm coming from mine and metallurgy, you know, so it's this kind of lean startup and everything. Have an MVP and you're done, and you know, in 6 months. It doesn't work like that. Scaling a process, you do it in a small, a few milliliter, and after that a few liter, and then after that 100 liter, and after that, you know, hundreds and thousands. And every time you scale, there's different problems arriving,
yes,
you know, and the processes optimization and the interaction between the variables, the temperature, the whatever, the pressure and all of that. So it's really complex, it's long. So this is maybe because I'm patient and perseverant in innovation because of the fact that my background, when I was a young engineer, I was, my job was to scale up, metallurgical processes, and it takes 2, 3, 4 years, even with the best engineers and chemists and everything. Yeah. So there's always things arriving, and you cannot predict everything. Now with the IA simulation system, we could be better because we could learn from past experiences and modelize it a little more, and maybe skip one step or what. And instead of 4 years, it's 3 years, but still it takes time. So the scale up of that, and but I think yes, but I think it's good to learn from each experiment, each project, and bring back this knowledge for the other groups, and the transfer of knowledge, the documentation of this processing might be maybe deficient, and maybe this is something that the industry needs to work on.
As a scientist, one of the worst things I hate is like reinventing the wheel. And doing research, buildings should not be built in a vacuum. They should really leverage all the knowledge that was accrued over years and years.
I know the opponents of that will say yes, but exactly what you mentioned, Martin, about the China or different countries where it's a government-run thing. So everybody is, when you learn something, you share with the other ones and everything, which is not necessarily true now, because in China there's a lot of competition and between the companies and everything to make it work. But when comes, new regulation, new materials and everything, sometimes the industry, even competitor, put their all the money and the time and the energy and R&D together, because they say sometimes, let's say it could be 3 Canadian companies or 3 American companies. Our competitor are more Chinese or whatever. So. And it happens, like when there came the era of nanotechnology, I was involved with the government of Quebec, and we had this, a strong incentive to have people work together and share expertise in nanotech instead of, seeing the competition, because this is exactly what the United States was doing. They were putting billions of money, and all the IBM and all the big guys the competitors were putting money upstream, at the low TRL, for, basic innovation. And after that, the applied innovation, the way to use that for, different products and everything. Now you're in competition, but the IP, and you're a specialist in IP, you know about that. So there's a way of sharing knowledge that is generic, that eventually, and then to share that. So this is why true collaboration needs to be there to make it speed up, the learning, and then instead of seeing each other like all small startups, this is ridiculous,
So you said that sometimes it happens that they pool together the resources. So would you say there is enough trust in the field for that to happen regularly and almost all the time?
But the trust, we can see that, people will help each other a lot when there's a crisis, True. Like we see in Canada recently. Suddenly people were seeing each other, our opponents or whatever, competitor, are helping each other. Now even the provinces where there was barriers, for commerce between the province, now, we want to remove that, and we've been waiting for 100 years for that, and suddenly a big threat, from the exterior. And this is again the social scientists talking, This is social, influence, social movement. When there's a crisis that attacks everybody, suddenly, so people will react. So unfortunately, I think we need to not wait the next crisis, to be a little, proactive about that and work together and sharing a little more. That doesn't mean we don't compete afterwards, but the knowledge should be shared. And this is like in Canada, it's good. We have, universities and colleges and everything, and relatively easy, to accessible. This kind of having access of knowledge and sharing knowledge and speeding up the transfer of knowledge and the collective knowledge, because we need collective knowledge there, So this is and again, this is a human thing, you know. And trust is the key.
Absolutely. Martin, what do you have to say about trust in the field?
Well, I think humans are a species that trust each other when communication is flowing. So I don't see any problem with trust. It's more when communication is not, oh, you don't understand. No, you don't understand why that law is there and you cannot build that. You don't because it just makes sense, but that law say you cannot do that. So it's more of a, in that case that is a problem. In terms of people working together, and this is one thing, and you just mentioned it a little earlier, our trades are not, they're not trained to innovation, and that's normal because it's an innovation. When as a plumber, I did my, I don't know, DEP of plumbing, there weren't any radiant floor because radiant floor wasn't installed in Quebec. So it's now we're trying to install radiant floor. There's no plumber to install it. So it will be long before we have trades that will install innovation. So innovation is good to show that it is possible, but then how can you transfer the same energy you're putting in trying to doing a project with innovation in the trades? How can you go down there, and actually it's not down, it's maybe up, but how you go with those people so they know how to install solar panel, how they know to install battery, how to install, as I was saying, radiant floor or heat pumps, and this is what will stop innovation to come in the trade. And when I was talking about conservatism in the industry, I think the main reason is because you have to move a lot of people. Yes. To build a building, it takes a lot of people that do the work. Mm-hmm. It's not a machine. No. So it's there, and those people have to understand what they're doing.
But on the topic of the radiant floors, for example, there are these innovations to go from top to bottom and bottom to top of the whole supply chain. Do you think we need maybe a critical mass to get there, better subsidies or regulations? What's more realistic?
All will work at a certain point, but the main thing is we need enough projects so those people will be trained. If I go in Ontario, if I go in Alberta, I will find a lot of plumbers that install radiant floor because they do install radiant floor and they did install it for a long time. If I go there and ask for a heat pump installer, that's going to be hard. But in Quebec, we have a lot of heat pump installers. Yes. Interesting. So it's more of a critical number of projects, so the trade will be. But these has to stay on. We did a lot of geothermal project in the 90s. We did stop doing those, yes. So we have less people that understand how.
We lose the expertise.
Yeah, and actually we had a lot of plumbers that install hydronic system in the 50s and the 60s because that was the way we heat our houses. We had furnace in our house. We had people, plumber that install oil pipe for the furnace, but now we don't use furnace. We use more heat pumps, so we don't have any plumber to install. Maybe that's a good thing for GHG, but it's always the critical number of projects that will maybe move the industry to a certain way. And I think the innovation should show the way, and then we have to find a way to bring that down earlier than it is right now, because what's installed at Varennes Library will not be installed. No, it's hard to install it still 15 years after it's been done.
Wild. Okay.
No, the solar panel, and this is one field of voltage. Solar panel are not that much installed in Quebec, and it's hard to find an installer of solar panel.
I think it comes down to some political decisions that were made in the past, for Quebec in particular. It was more hydro dams first and wind.
I don't see policy being the main driver. Main driver is what people want. If a lot of people want to install something, it will be installed and
Gotcha.
will move. I don't think it's the policy that decided that in Quebec we have the most number of electric car. I would say it's because if you have an electric car in Quebec, it's a lot cheaper than a gas fuel car. So people that are doing more than 25 or 30,000 kilometers a year, it will pay for itself, the car, and people are starting to understand that, so that's why there's a lot of electric car. It's not because there was policy. Sure, the subsidy did help a little,
Right.
but remove the subsidies, do the calculation, jack up the gas price, and you still have more electrical car.
Yeah, because the electricity is cheaper in Quebec than in other provinces. But you know, the training of people and the different trade association is very important, but they are not necessarily the people that are more the resistance to change. But this reminds me that, you know, when I was sitting on different boards of groups like in the aluminum industry, you know, 25 years ago, the government of Quebec would give a grant to company to innovate in terms of a new alloy or a new building. And we helped like De Vinci to build the bicycles in aluminum and things like that. You know, I was on the committee to give them some grants and everything. So, but there was always also money for training employees, let's say to have welders from France coming with a new technology, a new way of welding aluminum, you know, very sophisticated, you know, with inner gas welders and everything, that there was no knowledge, you know, here, no training in the welding schools and everything. And so there was money to pay for the guys to come from France, come here, and the employees to learn and everything. There was grant for that because they see that incremental technology, you know, adoption. Technology adoption instead of, and training instead of just technology invention. But now they changed these different rules in the aluminum industry, and now they are giving more money only on more radical innovation if you get a patent on a new alloy, which is good, you know, still good. But there's no more grant for all of that. I said, why? We are trying to reinvent a new methodology to do this welding here, and because we don't know how it works, and we just can't just read a procedure on the internet. We need to have the, you know, the expert, the operator teaching the other guys, you know. It is a learning by doing kind of thing. This is very complex. So to me, we need, and you were asking a question about it. To me, you need to, more highly innovative things and everything, and you know, but small changes and training operators, and you know, having innovation at every stages, at all levels, you know, and even themselves, the employees could say, oh yeah, I want to learn a new way of doing things, and maybe you're. You know, could I learn that, and maybe we could get a grant, so I could have, you know, a leave of absence paid to get this, you know, because there will be a future need in that. So, but there's no money for that. So, why?
But there's money on the education part with Voltage hiring 250 PhD students on September.
Oui, but PhDs.
Yeah.
Not operators, you know?
No, not
Not
operators, but hopefully these people will be spread all along society to teach as much as innovate.
Because you see, like Nordvolt, they have a problem of scaling their plant, you know, and going from a small scale plant to a large scale. And the problem is the production processes, the methodology. So it's the operators in the plant that knows the answers. there's no money for them.
They'll get there.
You know, there's money for the chemistry of the cells and all of that, you know, but we need a lot of money to debug and to scale and everything,
process
and to
engineers.
diffuse the knowledge and
money is one thing, but I think it's more of a trying to interest the people in those innovations.
Yes.
All the trades that I talk to, and we do a lot of projects that that have innovation in it. So the trade, they have to understand how to install those new equipment, understand why we're doing those things. And sometimes it's very simple thing like a window that open on the roof, so we have natural ventilation. And they're always very interested in doing things differently. So yes. It's not just the money, it's more how can we interest people and so they understand why they're doing. You were talking about trust just before. I think human at the base, they want to be the best human they can do, and they want to save the planet, and they all want to do. They just don't know how to do it, and they don't know who they should trust. And so that's that trust that has to be renouvelé. You have to gain their trust with what you're doing. So I think voltage is very high in the technology innovation. How can that go a little more lower into so the public will trust what voltage is doing, so the trade will trust what voltage, and they will want to understand and install what voltage did do in terms of a project.
Yeah. So the better the citizens, and as I mentioned, the citizens might be employees, in these companies and everything, technicians or whatever, operators. So once the operator wants to do things better because they see, in another plant in Sweden, we do it better. And, the way we construct a building is different over there. And they could become advocate of change. This is very interesting, and they could be advocates. So it's to me the people in the unions, the employees are not necessarily. They are sometimes seen by the boss, as the employee will resist and everything. But an employee that is involved and wants and knowledgeable and everything. Could be a very good advocate, and I have done studies about that. The diffusion of innovation, in a company and everything, major innovation change, and it's always a peer-to-peer kind of thing, of diffusion and trust. And you could trust that. This is working. I've heard about that and everything, and so you have to identify the good employee that is more open to innovation, and and you give him or her more time to learn and everything outside. And I mean, it works because people like to do things like other people recommended that they trust. Yeah. It could be, if it's a peer, it's a peer. If it's the technician above them, their boss, because they trust him, the engineer, whatever, but they need to trust somebody. Otherwise, why do you want to change that? Is it because why do you want to put a robot there? It's because you want to cut my job, And so it's easy to have the wrong perspective, on what is the real intention and impact, If you're not, we talked about knowledgeable, and you keep yourself interested and, aware of that and everything. And the different people involved in implementing all the different innovation that will be developed at Voltage in the different industries. And people are interested in changing and improving their lives and improving what's happening in the world. It's just they have to trust.
Yeah, where to start.
And who they trust is not the same for a different person. It's normal. You cannot impose, trust him or her, he is the expert. No. I have the right to believe better in this person than this one. So otherwise you might explain that to me, that this person is wrong, but it's very difficult to change the mind of person about who should they trust, you know?
Speaking of person, maybe we can turn to the audience and ask them if they have questions for you, where we can continue building that trust.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone over. And also, those of you joining us on Zoom, if you have a question, you could put it into the chat and we can read it out. Do we have one? Yes.
Hello. Thank you for the interesting discussion. My question is that, have you ever had like the experience of actually engaging the users or the citizens in the innovation process in construction industry? And if yes, could you please expand on that?
When you're talking about the user, you mean the occupant of the building?
As you said, it depends on the technology. Like sometimes the user is the operator or the plumber. Sometimes it's the citizen or occupants.
Well, most of the time, most of the project we do, we have to incorporate the occupant or the user, as you said, in the operation of the building, so the building will be well operated. And it is, as I was saying, it's more a question of communication and trust. If we're there when well, two things. If we're there and if they are there when we are starting up the building and we're commissioning the building, then it will work well. Because most of the time, we will find a lot of problem at the same time as they will, and we'll find a solution together. So there's a trust that will be established between the designer and the operator. If you don't have that, it could be hard. It could be hard, and this is why we arrive in building where they're 50%, or should I say the operation is 50% of what it should be in terms of efficiency. So yeah, it's more of I would say, commissioning. Be involved in the designer has to be involved in commissioning, because now commissioning is becoming a trade also, because commissioning now is something that has been asked in all building, but again, it's a word. A lot of people doesn't understand the word. So you say, well, yes, I want commissioning. And a lot of people say, well, I'm a commissioning agent, so I'll do your commissioning. But there must be a link between the designer, why we did that design, and how now it has to be operated. So there's a link that has to start from the design of the building up to maybe a year or 2 years after operation. And the people that has to be involved is operator, sometimes the occupant, the building I was talking about, where they have to stand up and open the window when it's cold enough outside to do air conditioning without the mechanical air conditioning. But those people have to understand that too. So all those people that are involved in operation of a building has to be connected from the start, the design up to during operation.
Are there any other questions in the audience? Or for those of you online, feel free to type them into the chat. We can read them out loud for you.
So, thank you very much, Isabelle and Martin, for coming. Merci beaucoup d'être venus. C'était un plaisir, une discussion très intéressante, j'ai trouvé. Je suis content qu'on n'ait pas parlé seulement d'équations, enfin, on n'a pas réussi à parler d'équations thermiques des parois, mais qu'on a pu parler de tout ce qu'il y a autour des buildings, et c'est exactement ça que je voulais. Donc,
et on a parlé
encore.
De façon générale d'innovation quand
exactement.
même. Ouais.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que vous voulez rajouter un dernier mot avant qu'on se quitte?
Moi, ça me fait plaisir d'avoir participé. Puis, ceux qui ont écouté, si vous voulez être en contact, mais vous pouvez certainement me trouver.
Comment on te retrouve?
Martin Roy Associés. On a un site Internet. On est encore à la vieille technologie.
Très bien.
Moi, je suis très visible sur LinkedIn. Je suis à la pré-retraite, mais toujours professeur associé à Polytechnique et à freelance advisor, autant des organisations civiles que des jeunes entrepreneurs. Donc, j'essaie d'aider un peu partout. Puis, ça m'a fait plaisir parce que cet enjeu-là, pour moi, on n'a peut-être pas discuté, mais les bâtiments, c'est quand même important dans la vie d'une personne, où tu vis et où tu travailles et autres. Et c'est aussi, bon, l'aménagement d'une ville. Je parlais de la qualité de vie de Montréal et tout ça. Ça fait partie de la culture. Donc, moi, j'ai toujours été attirée par... si j'avais pas été ingénieure, j'aurais été architecte, là. C'était le domaine que je voulais choisir parce que c'est un milieu fascinant. Tout ce qui est après de construire des choses. Fait que je trouve que ça... et aujourd'hui, on essaie de mixer un peu, dans le fond, le domaine de l'architecture, du génie, de l'environnement, de la gestion environnementale, des sciences sociales, de l'implication des citoyens et autres. Fait que c'est très complexe. Mais c'est ça qui est fascinant. Puis c'est pour ça que je pense que je ne prendrai jamais ma retraite.
Thank you very much. Thank you for space, for hosting us. And to the audience, see you on March 10th for our second episode at 10 a.m. And we'll have a all day that day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Olivier.
See.
Isabelle, Martin. Just want to let everyone know, joining us online, we'll be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now. Thank you all for your questions and comments. Just also that this episode remains available on our YouTube channel. You should revisit it and share it. Have a wonderful